what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He is Josh Tec. Good morning on a beautiful Thursday morning here in the fall, the second day of the early sign-in period for college basketball. Man, I love this time of year because we got games on. We used to have games on all the time. I wish we'd go back to 24 hours a day. Check the hat. But we got games on pretty much all night, which is pretty fun. And we also have recruiting talk, which yesterday we had recruiting talk all day. Today, I don't know if we're going to go as much, but today we're going to dive into the Big 12 and talk about this new mega power conference. It's I don't know about you, but like I feel like I need to get like one of those giant maps and put it above my desk and just do like little pins, like color coordinated. Like the yellow is the Big 12, and it would have pins all across the country.
I like that idea, but I'm going to steal it for a different reason. I'm gonna make it a goal to visit all of the college basketball gyms, arenas, gyms, whatever. Because some of these places are just straight up just gyms. They're not
Feels aggressive.
So I'm going to visit all of them, and I'm going to put pins in there.
Oh, where you go?
To demark where I've been.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
That's a great idea. Like and maybe I'll have to color coordinate them too, just to be like, all right, this is the Big 12 now.
Yeah. Maybe we can get a sponsor for the Tec Mobile.
Would love that. I would love that. If you want me to go on a college basketball tour, please, let's do it. I'm down.
I mean, you mean to tell me we can't find a good car dealership off of Highway 41 there in Marietta to sponsor the Tec Mobile?
There's got to be something.
It's got to be something. Hey, man, the old days, I'd probably been able to help you out there. I had some contacts there on 41.
Oh, my God. All right.
Well, Boomershine Auto. We could have made that happen. Get your own NIL deal. You know,
I would love. Hey, I need one.
I like it. We should get like an old. Anyways, we went off the rails really quickly on this one, so we'll need to reel this one back in. We talked a lot about yesterday, Kansas. We talked a lot about Arizona, TCU, Colorado. The Big 12 really is strong, which we know, which is no surprise. But now you add in some new factors where you've got like Arizona in the league and Arizona State and some teams, Utah and BYU and Cincinnati. Now, I know those guys came a year before, but the dynamic of this league has always been an unbelievable basketball league, some of the best basketball in the country. We know that. Some of the best games in the country. But then we also have teams like Texas leaving and Oklahoma leaving. So this weird trade. But I do want to start this pod with, of all the conference realignment, I feel like us getting Arizona and Kansas in the same conference is probably the best thing that came out of conference realignments for just college basketball. Now, we know it's for football, but for college basketball's sake, it's pretty awesome.
It really doesn't get much better than that, like other than having, obviously, Kentucky and Carolina in the same conference.
Yeah, that's true.
But like Arizona, Kansas, that's got a lot of buzz to it. That's like maybe I should travel to that kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, I will. It's right down the road for me, a couple hours south of Phoenix to go down to that game.
But for me too, it's just a couple-hour flight from Atlanta.
That's true. I'm interested to see, like, can we start to see some budding rivalries on the recruiting circuit between Arizona and Kansas, right? Is this something that we can see? I feel like Tommy Lloyd and Bill Self, they probably like a lot of the same guys. Like, I could see Carter Bryant and Jamari Phillips going to Kansas, and I could see Rakeese Passmore and LeBaron Phelan and Flory Badunga, for that matter, going to Arizona, right? And Emmanuel Stephen going to Kansas. Like, if you traded schools for all those guys, you'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes total sense. I wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the one thing that I would that would maybe like get in the way of that thinking, that theory, is that Arizona spends a lot of time recruiting California, and I don't know that Kansas does. I can't really think of
Kansas has, and they've recruited the Northwest really well. So, yeah, I think Kansas is one of the schools where it's like, wherever you are, we're going to go find you.
Sure, yeah. They are definitely that school. I know that Arizona just really kind of has a lockdown on Southern California area. So,
yeah, so that's a good conversation point, right? So we know Tommy Lloyd and his staff are going to recruit international. Like, we know that that's going to happen. We know that they're going to be in the transfer market. But again, with these conference realignments, do they dip more into Texas, which they did for a long time? Houston was a huge recruiting city for Arizona for a really long time. And now do they dip into Texas, or do they find themselves going more to, I don't know, Kansas City if there's a guy in that area? And so it will be interesting to see, like, does this change things? I feel like every school now is kind of in the same space where, borders, be damned. And with technology, you can watch any, like where was I the other day? My wife and I were out to dinner, and I was watching LaSalle
Drexel.
and Drexel on my phone eating tacos in Arizona. I was probably the only guy in my entire county that was watching that guy on his phone.
I was on a plane flying back from Austin, Texas, watching that game on my phone.
Right. So it's like technology now is going to shrunk the world down, where I don't know if geographic value is a recruiting advantage anymore, but nevertheless, it'd be interesting.
It might be if it has like an emotional attachment or something. You know what I'm saying? You grew up in Georgia and you want to play for Georgia, like, you know, whatever, something like that.
Sure. Well, nevertheless, I'm down for Kansas and Arizona being in recruiting battles moving forward. I think
can't wait. And just even outside of recruiting, those are two of the biggest brands in college basketball, and those are two of the most electric environments in college basketball. Watching them go at it like on a yearly basis, hopefully, would be just incredible.
Yeah, a lot of fun Wednesday nights, I think, in our future watching those guys. Okay, we'll reset a little bit. We've talked about Kansas ad nauseum yesterday. Arizona got a lot of run yesterday. TCU, one of their most historic classes, their best class ever. Jamie Dixon pulling in some guys, a lot of size, a lot of good defensive-minded guys, some grinders going to be showing up there in Fort Worth. We talked about Colorado. They did miss out on some of their guys, a.k.a. Trent Perry, but they did land some great players nonetheless, where I still feel like Colorado is a team that they had 2 7-footers, great shooter from Canada. Andrew Crawford, one of the best sleepers coming into the league. So really, really like that team from Colorado they put together for this 24 class. But we want to go a little deeper into the rest of the league, and I think we got to start with Baylor. Really good class. Okay, Jason Osamoda, 6'9", wing, and you mentioned it in your story. You saw Yevis Missy come right out as a freshman. Were you surprised by Missy's debut and being as strong as it was? Because I know we had some mixed opinions on him coming out of high school.
Had I not been kind of like the psychotic person that listens to college basketball talk during the summertime that I am, I would have been surprised by Missy. But a lot of the college basketball insiders had been talking about how much they had been hearing about how well he'd been playing during practices and scrimmages and this, that, and the other from the Baylor staff. So I think I kind of got the tip, and a lot of people that follow that kind of stuff got the tip that Missy might have a really breakout season. So according to that, I wasn't surprised. But according to like a year ago, if you would have asked me, hey, Yves Missy's going to be like one of the best freshmen in the country, I wouldn't have believed that.
Well, I think it's important to bring him up to show what's the potential there for Jason Osamoda. Certainly a high ceiling guy, can really shoot, a mismatch problem. Some days I don't know which player he's going to be in college, but obviously we've seen what Missy's become right out of the gate. It does give you a lot of hope if you're a Baylor fan.
Yeah, Osamoda is, I think he's one of the more high ceiling guys in the class. Like if he hits, then boy, is he hitting, right? Like I think that's going to be a guy that he could be like an NBA player. He could even have one and done potential. You know what I'm saying? Like he has that kind of ceiling. But it all just depends on what Baylor can do with him when he gets on campus.
Yeah, we know that Baylor is a popular place for NBA scouts for what Scott Drew's been able to pump out of Waco over the last couple of decades. Rob Wright is also headed there to Baylor. And listen, give me a Baylor guard all day. I love Baylor guards, always have.
Yeah.
Always will. Rob Wright, tremendous player. You always need a guy that can stir the drink. He can certainly do that. And I feel like if you're a point guard, Baylor, you can make an argument that Baylor is one of the best programs we've seen over the last 25 years, particularly under Scott Drew. That's probably a top 5 school that you want to go to if you want to be a high level point guard. It'd be fun to kind of look through that, actually, look at the pedigree of the Scott Drew era, all the point guards that have played for him and their success. And I think Rob Wright's got the chops to step in there and be just as good as the rest of the other guys in that fraternity.
Completely agree. The guy just wins a lot of games. He really impacts the game across the board, truly. Like he is a great passer, great scorer. He's not the biggest guy, but he'll pull his fair share of rebounds, get his fair share of steals. Like he just kind of has his hands in a lot of different pots.
Yeah, and Baylor's not a school, too, that I think cares too much about whether or not you're a big guard or not. I mean, I feel like if you're a good guard, that's what matters to them.
They'll work with you.
Ultimately, it's going to come down to Trey Johnson. I think that's where the big spotlight comes in here. Obviously, Texas is now in the SEC for this class. So Trey Johnson's down to 2 schools. It's Texas and Baylor. It's 2 in-state schools. The Dallas native, Trey Johnson is going to be down to those 2 programs. And, I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. If you're Trey Johnson, both of those are pretty good options. I feel like it's a 50-50 split. I mean, here we are on November 9th. It's a Thursday. Could we see him make this decision between now and next Wednesday? I think he's one of the big guys that's left on the board, a top 10 player. At one point was a guy a lot of people consider maybe the top guy overall in the country. High level player. I've always, who did I think about with him? I had a great player comp for him because I'd asked a lot of people who was the player comp. And I had a great one, Josh. And now I'm freaking, because I'm old.
I feel like you brought it up in the archives, but now I cannot remember who it is either. But regardless, Trey Johnson, while you think Trey Johnson is a guy that if he goes to Texas, he vaults that Texas class to a top 5 class. He goes to Baylor, he probably vaults this Baylor class to a top 5 class. And if you're a Baylor fan thinking about, all right, if we get Trey Johnson, what could it look like? I think it could look like Keontae George. I think it could look like Jacoby Walter, these freshmen who come in right away and make big flashes, like especially offensively, because Trey Johnson can really fill it up.
Bradley Beal? Was it Bradley Beal?
I think it might have been Bradley Beal that you brought.
Might have been Bradley Beal.
Go look in the archives, everybody, because he brought this up at one point.
I'm looking in the archives. I need to look in there because I just don't remember. I don't recall. But nevertheless, Trey Johnson, I think, is the guy for this league that would really tip the dominoes in a big way, making Baylor from very good to very great with this addition. Especially within this class where Kansas has killed it, Arizona's killed it, Colorado, TCU, all these other great classes. Baylor, really good class as it is right now. But you had Trey Johnson there, certainly changes the entire dynamic for your team. Let's actually talk about Houston for a second. I know we talked about them a little bit yesterday with Chase McCarty, one of my favorite fits for this class, but really I'd have to look at this. Mercy Miller may be the longest standing commitment there is in the class of 2024. He may have been the first one to commit at the national level. Like I'd have to go back and look, but he's been committed since I think 2021 or 22. He's been committed for a long time. A lot of family ties there.
Obviously, like Darren Harris has also been. You know who it is. This is definitively the answer. It's Christian Anderson to Michigan. He's been committed there since he was born, I think.
maybe we may need to look that up. Jason Asamoah to Baylor was an early commitment there. So yeah, that might be worth looking into. Nevertheless, Mercy Miller has been on the radar of Houston for a long time, and a lot of times when a guy commits to a school, and this happens, and it's not the fault of anybody, there's just a lot of players to go watch. You kind of, okay, well, he's going to XYZ school. We're going to go move on and maybe go to a different gym. If there's 7 other gyms to go watch, we're going to go watch somebody else because that guy's already committed. Well, right. Mercy Miller, every time I've seen him, he gets bigger, he gets better. He's an elite scorer. I mean, I think he's got the chops to be one of the top 5 scorers coming into the Big 12. Could be one of the top. And we know Houston's always going to have guards that can pump in the points. That's the way they run their style of play. Mercy Miller's got real star potential as a scorer. The guy can go out there and get a bucket. And the way that Houston plays, they're unafraid. And Mercy Miller plays that way. I actually really like this commitment a lot. He's been in our top 50 from day one, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that's an all-conference level player on top of a great player that they already have in Chase McCarty, big physical guy that fits the mold for what the Cougars do. But Mercy Miller, again, you commit and you still have narrative that follows you around. I think that says a lot about the kind of player that he is, and the player that he can be for the Sampson family down there.
Yeah. I agree. I had a hard time, full disclosure, when we do our superlatives. We have top shooter, top scorer. I had a hard time determining whether I wanted to put Mercy Miller in one or Jamari Phillips in one. So I split it down the middle. I gave Mercy Miller the top shooter. I gave Jamari Phillips the top scorer. You could really flip-flop them in either way.
Sure, you could.
But I just was like, you know what? One of these guys is one of them. One of these guys is another one because they both can really fill it up. Well, and it also doesn't hurt that Mercy Miller's dad is who he is because that's just cool.
Well, tell everybody. Maybe people don't know.
The junior colonel of the MF and tank.
I need to save that clip. For just historical purposes.
Yeah, I mean that's just cool, man. Like,
if we can have video avatars, that would be your video avatar.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like, can't do anything about it. One of the coolest commitments of the class for sure.
Sorry, I'm just soaking in that moment. That was fast break gold that we just for this hour of the day out here on the West Coast. I appreciate the.
Well, I'm already on cup of coffee too, so.
I'm on none, so you can tell by my energy. Yesterday, I had a super heavy cup, and today I have none, so I'm kind of feeling it. Cincinnati's now part of this league. And listen, I think Cincinnati, I love those guys. Those guys are great dudes over there. They recruit their friggin' butts off.
They're
And I
taking
feel like
swings.
they've been the bridesmaids so many times in recruiting. Now they have a really good one in Trey McKinney, but I feel like that's going to hit at some point. They're going to close the door. Isaiah Collier was had them down. I mean, it was down to his top
four.
Top four. I mean, I would
At
argue
least
maybe
top four, yeah.
For him. With this class, they were involved with a number of other guys, but they still have Trey McKinney. I think they're going to be really good on the transfer market. I think that's a good way for Cincinnati to make their way in the Big 12.
I think we might be underrating them a little bit because they also have Tyler Betsy and, like you said, Tyler McKinley. So they got two forwards, 6'8" kind of guys that might be a little bit under the radar compared to the rest of the class. Like they might not be getting the shine.
That's fair, yeah.
But I think those guys can be pretty productive and give a lot of people fits. I almost feel like if they were in the AAC still, this would have been like massive class. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot about Tyler Betsy. So that's on me. I thought they just had the one commitment. But yeah,
no, it was one of those things where I had to go back and double check because I was like, I thought Tyler Betsy committed there too, but I also couldn't remember. So there's been a lot going on. A lot of commitments.
Yeah, there has been a lot. We talked offline after we podcasted all day yesterday, like how tired we were, and neither one of us felt physically tired, but mentally, I think we were seeing stars after yesterday, and so I think maybe it's carrying over to today. But Trey McKinney and Tyler Betsy, to your point, yeah, I think those are two guys that, for the way that Cincinnati basketball, no matter who the coach is, there's always a stigma that comes with that, and a good stigma. Like they play physical, they play tough. I think both of those guys will fit that bill. Be really hard matchups within this Big 12. Again, like I always think about like, well, who are they going to have to go guard? Well, man, I'd love to see Trey McKinney and Carter Bryant play each other. I'd love to see Tyler Betsy match up with Carter Bryant on a switch when they play that league game in the Big 12. It'd be a lot of fun. The league itself is, again, all these weird, like Central Florida, KJ Green, out of Atlanta. We've seen Sharman White out of Pace Academy always have great guards. KJ Green's part of this new lineage going down to Central Florida. Central Florida, I think, year in and year out, recruit really well. Freshmen play really well. Their staff does a really good job of developing guys. I think that's one to keep an eye on.
All these class that we need to really maybe give a little bit of shine to is Arizona State's, right in your
I was getting there. That was kind of my point. Like with this new league, it's just like Orlando, then all the way out to Tempe, and it's just like
you go to West Virginia. And, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like
just nonstop. Yeah, but like talk about Arizona State class.
The Mormon country in Utah, and just like you're pretty much covering every
worldwide, baby, worldwide. We'll talk about Arizona State. What do you like about these guys coming in?
Well, first of all, I like the depth. Like they added, like I felt like for a while. Like, I think you brought this up that for a while it was kind of like, oh, what do they got going on? It felt like they were in on a lot of guys, but never like landing those guys. Recently, they added Amir Ali and Sammy Yane to, I would say two top 75-ish kind of players. Like Amir Ali is, 6'8" shooter. Sammy Yane, 6'8" bruiser. So they got size and versatile
Jaden
size.
Smith also like a 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah, exactly. I was going to get there at some point, but then they added, Jaden Smith and then a guy, Bo Aldridge. They have a lot of guys, a lot of depth. And I think this class really filled out nicely for Bobby Hurley.
Yeah, guys it'll be interesting to see if they stick around too, right? I feel like they've had a lot of roster turnover there, a lot of coaching turnover there. I feel like every year it's a new show up to work. Hi, my name is ... Like there's a lot of introductions there in Arizona State. But to your point, yeah, I mean, they've done a really good job. Like since I've been here, it's been interesting to see the basketball scene kind of grow and cultivate because the charter school system here, we've got obviously Dream City Christian is here. Arizona Compass Prep is here. PHH Prep is here. Bella Vista, like all these prep schools, these charter schools. And Arizona State, they've really filled their roster up with guys from all these schools. They don't really have to leave very often on the recruiting front because they've got a lot of guys right here. They've done a pretty good job, and they don't really have to recruit against anybody to go get them within their state.
It doesn't hurt that those schools also just bring in guys nationally. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can, if there's a kid you like from Georgia, we'll just wait till he goes to Dream City or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in all those schools, for the most part, where Arizona State is, it's pretty centrally located for all of them to get to. It's like it's literally right across the street from the airport. Like it's a pretty good setup there for them to bring in guys. But they're tapping into this prep school market that's here in town. Talk to me about Iowa State. Sneaky good class, good couple guys they have coming in to Ames. I know you always kind of like Iowa State's classes.
I do, and I think the guy that you really have to look out for here, the guy that's going to be like, the guy for this class, the crown jewel, if you will, is Nogus Industries. Brewster Academy guy now, originally from the Chicago area, so he kind of has those Midwest ties. I think he's going to be a guy that can really develop under TJ Otzelberger. I mean, you see a guy like Milan Momcilovic have success early on. They're not the same kind of player, but it shows you that freshmen can succeed early on there. I think he's a guy that can step in and give them good minutes.
Yeah. One of my favorite sleepers coming into the league at Oklahoma State is Jeremiah Johnson. He's actually here talking about those prep schools at PHH Prep. Was up at Wasatch, the Oklahoma native. Pretty good player, man. Every time I see him, I really like him. I know Mike Boynton and his staff really like him a lot. So get an in-state guy to come home to Oklahoma State, a sleeper point guard coming into the league. You talked about
State and David Castillo. I like that one a lot. I think David Castillo is a guy that can really thrive under Jerome Tang in that system there. Not the biggest guard in the world, but he's a guy that can go out there and get you a bucket. He can make a play for somebody. He had a really, he had a coming out party, I would say, a couple of summers ago on the USA 16U, the same summer that Cooper Flagg really broke out is when he broke out with USA basketball. So I think that's a under the radar one to watch. I think he didn't really get as much buzz and shine over the summer as he did a couple summers ago, but I think that's still a good commitment for Kansas State.
Yeah, great guards coming into the league. And when you kind of look at it from a big picture view, some really, really fun guards, some fun matchups are going to be happening here in the league play. Within the state of Utah, BYU and Utah, two newcomers into the league. I know for those two schools, they're excited to play each other again, not just in football, but also in basketball, keeping that holy war going again. BYU is really tapped in the transfer market, but I think they've got some good ones coming in. Isaac Davis out of Idaho, the great state of Idaho, was a commitment to them back in the summertime. Big, strong, built like a tight end. He'll be really good for the way that Mark Pope likes to use his bigs. And, of course, they just got a recent commitment from a kid down in Dallas, Fort Worth area, Brooks Barr. Really liked him a lot on the Under Armour.
Your two territories, Texas and Idaho.
What's that?
They said they're covering your two territories. You're from the Dallas area originally, and you're the Idaho Whisperer.
I am the Idaho Whisperer. I mean, listen, y'all can laugh at me all you want, but we've seen more players from the state of Idaho go into schools than we've ever have, and there's a reason for it. It's got some ballers up there. Then Utah, they picked up David Katoa, committed to them a long time ago. It was at Real Salt Lake. Now it's, I think, Utah Prep. And Jackson Johnson, a local kid that's going to be in there. I think both of those schools will be in the transfer market as well. Any other schools I'm missing? Did we cover everybody? I kind of bounced all over the league.
We covered everybody that I think I know pretty well. Like I'll be honest, I don't know what West Virginia's got coming in. There's a couple, and then we covered the guys at the top, like ad nauseum.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. So make sure you go, if you're on our YouTube channel, go back, look at all of our stuff. Our first one, we had a lot of content yesterday. Go back and watch them all for all I
think we did like maybe close to 4 hours yesterday, 3.5 hours or so.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. So make sure you like and subscribe. This, repost this if you're watching it on Twitter on a replay. And if you've watched this live, we appreciate you doing that. We're going to be back here in a little bit. We're going to talk about the Big Ten as we continue our early signing day period coverage right here on hoopsy.com. He's Josh Tech. I'm Justin Young. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you soon right back here on the live stream. Take care.